the smell of grass and leather. There were days when we'd play too. We'd cross the lines when the sun would shine and make our dreams come true. I had a glove on my hand and a girl in the stands. She stole my heart like a hit and run. It seems the world was so much simpler back then. We was just out there for fun. I pray for someone to hold your hand and baseball in the summer. Someone to walk with you when this world grows cold. Baseball in the summer. Baseball in the summer.
Welcome to the Brock v. Mac Legendary Rivals podcast, and we have with us today, without a wagon and without a traveling band with him, the Gypsy, Steve Vautour. How are you, sir? It's been a long time.
I'm doing awesome. Awesome, Mike. It's good to hear from you. It's good to be on your program here. I've watched a few of your episodes already and just loved every one of them.
Well, it's funny getting caught up with people that you haven't seen in a long time, and how little changes in some cases. And you know, you're not rocking the long flowing locks, though. I can remember that you had the great lettuce back in the day that probably did pretty well with the ladies, I'm going to assume. At Brock.
Yeah, no, I was just at a point in my stage when I came to Brock. I didn't know where I wanted to be in life. Just wanted to play ball. So
well, you couldn't have, you maybe have picked less stringent coaches than McRae, but you know, it was fun to play for Mike, and it was definitely great having you on the team. So.
Absolutely, very intimidating.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. He was only a couple of years older than us. You know, I think that's the part. He seemed like he was 30 years older than us, but he was only 26, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Steve, why don't we start, because you're a bit of a, maybe to everyone except Chris Ebel, you were brand spanking new. None of us had played with you or any of those kinds of things. Why don't we start with, where you grew up and a little bit about, how you developed a love for baseball.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Kitchener all my life, lived here all my life. Started playing Kitchener ball. My dad was a coach of 9-year-olds. I was 5. They didn't have enough players, so he threw me in the field. That's when I started playing. You learn a lot real fast playing with the older guys.
Probably not too eager to start a brawl either, I wouldn't think.
No, just the kid in the outfield chasing the butterflies, blowing bubbles with the bubble gum.
That's amazing. So, did your dad coach you beyond that, or did was that your first entrance into organized?
Yeah, that was my first year, and then he just put me into the training camps and stuff like that when I was a kid, and then I just got into the system with Kitchener, playing with Kitchener, the select team onto the all-star team, and then just moving up to the junior Dodgers, Panthers, and then to Macomb College in Michigan, onto Brock for the final year there, and then back to the Panthers.
That's a have arm will travel in your case, and have bat will travel. Did you, when you were young, what position did you play?
I was utility. I just played wherever they wanted me to play. Didn't really grasp any position in particular. Didn't really pay attention when I was being taught. Just went out there and played.
So it was all kind of instinctual for you, just kind of.
Yeah, I think so. Just watching the other people play, just pick up on stuff like that.
That's interesting. Did you have a coach that particularly influenced you at a certain point, and did you start narrowing on some positions at a certain point?
Growing up, just wanted to play. Just wanted to be out there, have fun with the guys. Most of the players, some of the players had their dads as coaches, and I was just out there playing. They focused on their kids and other kids, but me, I was just probably running around doing my thing. as I do now, I really don't pay attention to anybody, just do my thing type of thing. So just kind of learn as you go, until I got to, I think it was Panther school. Even then, just whipping around, whatever. And then you move into the higher range, Macomb College, Brock University. That's when I tried to pay attention, tried to listen to what they were saying. I know Kemp was, trying to teach me how to hit, but I just wanted to play, and yeah, that was it.
Well, let's back it up a little bit. So, when you were in Kitchener, prior to Macomb and prior to Brock, clearly at some point someone must have taught you a slider. I'm just saying. I know this from.
No, just learned it all myself. That was the pitch that was my go-to pitch. Um, I'd hit left-handed batters in the knees, and I'd have right-handed batters buckling. And it's just that was the pitch I threw over and over and over again. 80% of my pitches was a slider. I just it was the motion from the hand, and it just worked for me there.
I'm here to tell you, I've seen a lot of self-taught people in my life, but I have never seen anyone teach themselves to throw a slider that was quite that effective, Steve. You have a
The only
gift
downfall I
for
had
this.
was with the pitching was I couldn't throw a changeup for the life of me. A
Well,
pitch
I think
that it's a pitch that I should have had, but couldn't do it. I tried.
Yeah, you probably tried a little more than I do. I said on a previous podcast, I threw 15 of them in my life. Two of
Yeah,
them got hit out of the park.
yeah,
And at the very last one I threw, I knew it probably 2 inches out of my hand that it was going to get hammered, and I let huge big F bomb,
yeah,
and that ball is still traveling because I'm like you. I just could never get the touch on it. It always felt weird.
yeah,
Um, it's very strange. So
yeah.
when did you start pitching before? Like when did you become a pitcher? Position player? Like, was that all the way through, or is it a point where you started taking the mound a little bit more?
I think it was all the way through. Uh, when I started out with the select teams and all that, every player wants to play everywhere. The coaches just wanted to put players in, and then I think it was probably the 13-year-old age where with going out in the field and pitchers struggling with pitches, and then they're trying everybody on the team, and I just seemed to find the strike zone, and that's when I think I started working with the junk, curveball, the slider, and just went from there. But being a starting pitcher the one day and starting shortstop or starting center fielder, like I said, wherever they wanted me to play, I play.
That's pretty amazing. It's hard to master one position, not never mind be great at three. Were you outside of your want to play the game? Were you a fan of the game? Did you follow the Jays on the radio or like any of those kinds of things, or was it more of a just this is a sport I really like playing?
Yeah, I love playing it. I cannot watch a game. I can't listen to a game. I can't watch a game. If I'm not playing, I'm not paying attention. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty unusual actually for most of the guys that grew up on Tom and Jerry. But it's great that
Yeah,
because I'm sure that you've wasted far less time in your life than some of the rest of us sitting around watching a game that is sometimes not very compelling to watch. I'll admit.
yeah,
Get it,
yeah.
So Macomb, was that were you recruited to go to Macomb, or tell me the story about going from high school to making the decision to go to the United States?
Yeah. Well, when I was done high school, again, at that point in my life, I didn't know where I was going to be. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was thinking about joining the Army. Played with a guy from Guelph, Trevor Churchill. We stayed in touch. We played on a inner city league where Kitchener, a bunch of guys got, from different cities, got together on a team. I grew up with him playing through the system. Just called me up the one day, said, "Hey, I'm heading down to Michigan. You want to go?" I said, "Sure, why not? Not doing anything today." So we went, played catch, in front of the coach that he was going to see, Perkins, and the Rudy coaching staff they had there. We played catch for about an hour and a half. They offered Trevor a position. They offered me a position. I was just going down for the ride, but he said, hey, if you want to be on the team, you're more than welcome. I said, yeah, absolutely. So that was a bit of a shocker coming back home saying, hey, I'm going to school in Michigan. So, yeah, and then 2 years there, starting pitcher, struggled my first year, threw me into left field. And then with my arm strength, we didn't have a good shortstop, so they threw me into short for the rest of the season. That's where I think that's where I took on the positions for starting pitcher, starting shortstop, and then moving into Brock with the pitching staff we had. I had no room because the talent we had there. Starting shortstop, and then they threw me into close, which was I was happy about that too. I was doing probably the two positions that I love the most, grew up into, so couldn't be more happier than other than the outcome in the finals. So of course.
Well, that's interesting, Steve. You came late it was late in the training camp, I think.
Yeah.
And do you recall your first discussion with the coach? Was it with Coach McRae? Was the first person you talked to?
No, I went with the JUCO, the club. They were getting me out to games. Yeah, I did sign up late. I did register, and I think that's where the Gypsy term came up because I was couch hopping. I didn't have a place to stay yet. Hadn't figured that out, so I was going to the JUCOs. Game after game, I was getting rained out, and I was just waiting for an opportunity to get called up to the Badgers there, and finally I got called up. Sat for a couple of games, and I think the first thing McRae said to me sitting in a game where he used that one phrase, the famous phrase, was he came up to me going relief. I think it was for Evil. We had just had our catcher get roughed up by a hitter. Came up to, he said, "You're going in. You can hit the guy, but don't hit him in the head." I think that was the first words he said to me. I kind of looked, okay. So I went up and drilled him, and I got thrown out, of course, and then McRae came out and threw out that phrase, and he got tossed. So, but yeah,
that was St. Bonaventure, and
yeah,
beautiful place to play a game, but an absolute debacle in terms of the umpiring.
Yeah.
It was clear that we came in, shocked them quite a bit. They were like, I don't know how to handle a team that's supposed to be a tomato can, and we're supposed to kill here on our homecoming, and we're clearly more talented than they expected. So, they have to rob the game from us by kind of having suspect umpiring.
Yeah.
And, that kind of scenario. Tell me a little bit about, what it was like playing in the middle infield, given that, we had we had Jeff Hoover at third and Larry Houston at second base, some pretty good players, and, you guys could really pick the ball.
Yeah, very talented guys. I felt comfortable playing with them. I knew what they could do. Hoover's Hoover because he was eating everything up. And Houston with his speed and range, and I just felt comfortable with the two. Where I felt like I kind of fit in with them. It just felt like we had been playing for years together.
Yeah, they're both. It's funny for all the guff the Houstons take for being these kind of rowdy Hanson brother type characters. They're both country guys from Pontypool, and kind of quiet, and probably one thing I will say is we had a lot of very calm, other than Fletcher, we had a lot of calm personality types in the infield, and it kind of kept things very easy from that perspective. What were you taking in school? What did you sign up for school ultimately? I know a late sign up is tough, and we were so intense right away. I think balancing school and baseball was hard for a lot of people. But do you remember what your courses were like?
I think I was just focusing on something in the health studies. Like you said, it was a late register, so I didn't have much to choose from. So I just picked whatever courses I could find. I think there was geography and something. I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's what were your impressions of the campus having come from the States?
The campus has that to compare to the States?
Yeah.
Well, Macomb College was in the middle of a small town city. It had a Taco Bell and a Burger King across the street. And it was just It had diamonds in the back, which were groomed by. That's where I was working part time, so I was grooming the field while I was playing. That was my part time job. But Brock, the diamond we played at, oh, that was amazing. Best diamond I've ever played at. So
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and it's because the Blue Jays had a single A team in town at the time.
yeah,
The Stompers. So it was pretty interesting to have that as a home field and have no football team either. So that really gave us a lot of profile actually for a team that was
yeah.
first year. Do you remember what your interactions were like? Let's start with Coach McRae because obviously he sets the tempo for the program. What do you remember about Coach McRae? And I mean, we all have some classic McRae stories where he cracked on us for losing badly against Canisius. We all had to do wind sprints in the outfield, and he's pretty hardcore from that perspective.
He was.
How did you feel about Coach McRae?
Like I said, he intimidated me. The first words he said to me were, don't hit him in the head, and that's when I started listening. Hey, this guy's here serious, so better pay attention. I don't want to get on his bad side. So, great, hard working coach. He drove us, hard practice for games, running on and off the field. Me being me, I made stupid mistakes on the field, and I heard it from McRae. I think he sat me the one game, but yeah, best coach probably I've had out of all the coaches I've had. But yeah, he was a tough guy, and it was great because with me being the bobblehead that I was at that age, I needed somebody to set me straight. So he was that guy.
Yeah, it's. I think he underestimates the effect he had on people's lives. What do you remember about Coach Kemp? I mean, obviously, being a hitter, you would have spent a lot of time with Darryl, and Darryl was a unique cat, to be sure.
Coach Kemp, don't sit beside him when he's chewing tobacco. He spit on your shoes, and you wouldn't even realize it until 5 minutes later. But he was another guy that, he gave me some hitting tips, and I tried everything. I'm not a hitter by far, more of a pitcher, but I tried what he suggested. Didn't work. Tried again, didn't work. So, but he was a great coach as well. Great with the guys. Always giving positive, feedback and always trying to help out.
Yeah, being a pitcher, you would have had some interaction with Tim Topping, who I always thought was the perfect pitching coach for that Brock team because Mike was pretty intense and Tim was so zen-like. It was just like dealing with a surfer. He'd come out to see you and he'd be smiling. And but the things I remember from now doing a podcast with Tim is he was very into mechanics and pitch counts, and he was a very technical pitching coach. Do you remember much of your interactions with Tim? Because I loved mine, but that was me.
It's going back 30 years, and I got a bad memory. I don't remember too many interactions with the coaches. I just remember more of the games than anything. The guys on the team, but going back that far, I'm getting old and memory's getting weaker.
Well, Steve, the reality is you were usually in the last inning or 5-6 outs of a game. So, the pitching coach probably not coming out at that point. If you're getting pulled, it's because you're getting pulled, or typically in your case, we were shutting the game down and winning. So that was great. Do you have any recollections of the season? Like a few things stand out for me was I really love the trip to Cooperstown. I don't remember the BB gun stuff in the outfield, but I do remember playing.
That's something I'll never forget. Yeah, that I'll remember forever. But yeah, the guys traveling with the guys in the van, 15 people per seat, it felt like. But yeah, Cooperstown, honor to play in there, and then going out and playing against the U.S. teams, and then having that incident happen in the outfield. It was scary at some point, but Like they took care of it, and then we went on to play. So
Yeah, it is a unique thing to play in some of those parks, and we also had some pretty intense rivalries in Canada. I mean, U of T were a great team, and McMaster, rough to handle. They were a team that ended up winning the national championship. And I've said to everybody that the teams we played in Montreal, all of them ended up winning national championships within about a 6-year span. I think, with the exception of U of T. So the quality of baseball was amazing, given that some of these teams, other than like a George Brown, were like in their really in their very early years. Do you remember what you thought of the quality of the baseball that was being played? And I remember, the thing that caught me right away was our outfield. We had Bottomley, Tinish, Daryl Houston, and Scott Jusiak.
yeah,
And I'd never seen an outfield that was it could
yeah.
throw like that.
As a pitcher, couldn't ask for anything more. That sets the comfort zone for any pitcher, knowing that you have the defense that you do behind you with Houston and Hoover, and then the guys in the outfield. Again, a bunch of great guys, great hitters. You could tell they were going to go places with even their attitudes and stuff. It was just a pleasure to play with them all.
You're so very soft spoken, and you got a pitching staff that's full of the bigger personalities, I think, on the team, right? You have Rob Green, who's just a big hearted, gutsy leader type guy. You had Chris Ebel, who was, I like to always refer to Chris as a professional pitcher. He was just very composed. And you had Joel, who was, I think Joel Garton was young and trying to learn a lot from us older guys there. And, you had some really good guys. Like, you would have had a very closer relationship compared to the starting pitchers who are always their own weird world. But like someone like Alex Harold, who would always pitch in front of you.
Yeah.
Was just a great guy. He had this big winning smile. He was always upbeat, positive, and he was that kind of like curveballing lefty junk guy that would get them all off balance, and then you'd come in and their eyes would be a million miles open because you'd be throwing a lot harder than Alex. And so that must have been kind of a fun way to end games, is you're usually transitioning from Alex's junk to your hard slider and hard fastball kind of world. It probably made life pretty easy for you at certain points, right? Because of the contrast.
Yeah. Well, coming from the junk pitcher into throwing, straight fastballs makes you feel like you're throwing 120 because batters are behind on you. So there's a good feeling for that. But yeah, coming to a game to finish up, it's a great feeling knowing that you've done your job, you've done your part, and then come out with the win.
Yeah, we had a very successful year, and we go to Montreal. What do you remember about Montreal, other than the games are obviously going to stand out, and the fact that it was colder than hell.
Yeah.
But it was also the referendum weekend. There were a bazillion buses. There's lots of craziness. It was an incredible time to be in the province, just generally.
Yeah, the thing.
Do you remember whose room you were staying in at the time?
Nope.
Knowing you, it was probably a couch in someone's room, Steve. At this point,
couch to the floor. Yeah. Yeah.
I think you had to save our first game, which was against Dalhousie, and that was a rough game because Rob Green got hit with a line drive that I never seen anyone hit that hard in my life with a ball. And the pitching and the hitting conditions were all off. It was cold, there was snow, there was wind, there was all kinds of stuff going on. And I know that you had to save the game against U of T. We had to beat U of T to get into the final. And then we end up playing a Laval team that is the pitching was unbelievably good all the way through the tournament. But in that game, it's nip or tuck, and
Yeah.
it's a great team that we were playing. Full of there were 3 or 4 ex-pros on that team.
Yeah.
2 guys that left-handed pitchers that were really throwing hard. And we, I think, fought right down to the end. So there's no one has to hang their head, because our championship ring is not from losing one game at the end of that season. It's by having a successful season and growing and spending time with such a tight team. The team was very tight. Do you remember what some of your closer relationships were on that team? Like people you were hanging out with maybe a little bit more, and people that you spent some time with?
Well, I wasn't there for very long. Like you said, it was I started maybe halfway through the season, quarter way through the season. So I'd say with Ebel being there, I knew Ebel, I hung out with Ebel, and then just kind of went with the flow where everybody else went. Just tried to have fun as they did, trying to fit in. As for anybody standing out, honestly, I don't remember at all.
I do remember the guys really. Listen, one thing that wins friends on baseball teams is putting up W's and putting up saving games for people like me. That those things kind of help, and I think everyone really put their arms around you and tried to make you feel welcome.
Okay.
Given that some of us had already been at the school for a few years, and we're recruiting in teammates and stuff. I had 5 Oshawa guys there, so it was pretty easy for me to go hang out with the Peters or the Houstons or Teddy.
Yeah.
We forget sometimes that we have other players that came that it would be their first year. They don't know anyone on the team. They've never played. So hopefully I do know that the team really responded well, because you're a great performer, right? We needed the shortstop, and we needed that back end arm, because that was one gap that we had. And, I think it was great that you filled it. Tell me a little bit about, what happens after the season, and, what starts to happen in your life. We all kind of walked away from a pretty intense couple of months, and everyone had to clear their head, and a lot of people went off in different directions. Where were you headed after that first season at Brock?
Like I said, I was at that point in my stage of my life that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't play ball. I finished up the season there, came back home, and then I don't know what happened. I just felt that, what do I do now? Start working, go back. I didn't know what to do, so I think I just stayed home and started working. School has never been my thing, academic wise. If ball were involved, I'd be there. But just that summer or that fall after the season, I just decided to go a different path.
Yeah,
do I regret it? I absolutely wish I would have gone back, but just choices I made in life at that stage.
Experiential learning, Steve. I think it's something we all do. You continued to play ball. You went back and played in Kitchener, and how long did you keep playing for?
I think I played up until 24, and that's when my dad passed away. And then I think I just lost all drive to play. Took a couple years off after that. Had arm trouble at that time as well. Took a couple years off. Started playing in Young Men's Senior League with a bunch of guys that we played with the Panthers. I think I played with them for about 6 or 7 years. The arm's still struggling. Pitched when I could, but mainly played center field. Struggled along 7 years just because I wanted to play. 7 years came up. It started to get boring to me because we were on a team that had such talent. In the senior league, that we were crushing teams. Game in, game out, and it started to get boring. So that's when I decided to have a family at that age and get married, and move on to the slow pitch and co-ed with my my wife. So
Well, that's probably a lot less taxing on your arm. Do you know what do you know what you ended up doing in your arm? Was it an elbow or a shoulder?
I think it was the different motions, my shoulder mostly, different motions from shortstop pitching, and then just not taking care of myself. I wasn't doing the stretches that I should have been doing. I wasn't taking care of myself, my body wise. I wasn't running after pitching. I wasn't throwing the ice on. It was just self-inflicted stupidity on my end. And I think I just tore everything, playing softball one game in the wintertime. It was colder, pick up softball and thinking you're going to throw 100 miles an hour. And I felt a pop there. So I think after that weekend, I just took it easy for the year and then tried to play again next year. And the pain just came back. I still have the pain today. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how recreational slow pitch does us all in it. I have a bunch of knee surgery due to that, and so you make the decision to have a family, and obviously, being a father is something you're passionate about. What do you settle back in Kitchener-Waterloo, and tell us a little bit about your family a little bit. I think people would be happy to hear that you're creating your own baseball team at the moment.
Yeah. All girls, unfortunately. 3 girls, 1 boy. I got married a second time. Had a second family. 2 young daughters now, 4 and 7. My oldest kids are 21 and 17 now. That we share custody with. So the 4 and 7-year-old with the new wife, and that's who I'm playing the co-ed baseball with. They keep me busy. I got 3 girls in the house and myself, so it's a challenge for sure. But I'm loving it. I love kids, and just turned 50 in February, so I think I'm done with kids. Having them, of course, not taking care of them, but I love kids, and I'm happy with the family I have.
Yeah, I'm sure that just wait till those girls turn 12 and 13, and
I think they're thinking they're that age already now. So
yeah, I'll send you the flask and the insulation to either isolate your, you got to winterize your garage or something, because it's just, I have a 20 and a 19-year-old daughter, and they were amazing up until about 12, and then things started to go a little sideways because they're wired differently than boys. Boys typically need a kick in the ass all the time.
Yeah.
Girls, it's just like, okay, we got to turn this down from 12 down to about 6 here. We need to calm, and it's, that part's hard, and but amazing. They do come back, and they're independent, and they're going to be responsible, and all those things that guys aren't. So that makes me kind of smile. But, that's outstanding. And what is there things you want to get accomplished and do as you look forward into the next chapter of your life, and a little bit of have you done any coaching or anything like that?
The only coaching I've done is for my kid, hockey, from when he was 7 till maybe 12. And then he was at the stage where, I'm not going to be the reason why you're going to make the team. You have to earn it yourself. So I'm going to sit back for a while. And being a goalie, I couldn't really teach him much because I was a forward. But you can fire pucks at him. Coaching in baseball, I don't think I have, like I said, I can't watch, and I don't think I have the patience to coach, because I'm the guy that'll point out, if I am watching a game, I'll be calling them, telling them what they should be doing before the play happens, type of thing. And if I don't want to destroy some kids, drive by saying the wrong thing. So I just sit back and watch them play.
Well, you have a much better personality for it than I do. I'm bloody intolerant, so it's I'd be just. I think I've told the story on a previous podcast, but I had a kid that they asked me to tutor to try to become why a mean left-handed pitcher would ever be a great tutor is beyond me. But he had 6 pitches, Steve. He said, I throw 6 things. And I said, are any of them any good? And the problem was it was 6 of the same pitch. It was really just 6 spinners that kind of ended up in the middle of the plate. And I just thought, oh, this is insane, because it's hard when you've had a great coach like McRae and Tim was very good, and I had great coaching in Oshawa. They program you to expect greatness, and when people either don't have a great attitude or they don't take the steps to be great, they just want to be good, it's hard to accept that, right? Like it must have. Did you find it hard playing for coaches after Brock? Like I had a hard time with some of the coaches. I played on 6 teams after Brock, and it was like I'm having a hard time with how either amateur hour this is, or how disorganized this is, or some portion of it. I would just always compare it to what I had seen at Brock, and that was tough for me.
Yeah. Well, going back to the Panthers, I've had the same coaches for years. I think Ebo was one of my coaches, his dad. So you see the size of Chris, his dad is twice his size. But yeah, going back to those coaches that, year after year, you get used to them. But with the coaches that are in the university level, they're there for a reason. They're there to inspire people. They're there to teach people. They're there to get people to listen, and they do. So my hats go off to them. As for the Panthers, they've got a routine that they follow, and they just, they're out there to win. But the coaching staff for the Panthers compared to Brock, you have 2 different teams. It's all about the players. You have the personalities from the players from Brock who want to play, go out there to win, and learn and do great things. Whereas, the Panthers, they're out there to play, having fun, joking around in the change room and all this and that. And they're in the bench. But Brock was a little bit more serious because we had, more to earn, more, more to play for. You're playing for something. Whereas, Kitchener Panthers, you're playing for the intercounty, and you're playing the same teams over and over again. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of difference personality-wise from Brock to intercounty. Brock was more intense, that's for sure.
All right, I'm going to ask you a very good pitching question, because you played in the IBL, and I had a turn there as well. Wooden Bat League. How dominant would we have been in '95 if the Canadian University League would have been using wood bats as opposed to aluminum bats? Aluminum bats, for me, were the bane of my existence because you'd get a lot of check swing, cheap singles and stuff. What was it like for you pitching, to a wood bat versus a aluminum bat?
You felt more safe. Wood bats are coming at you, not as hard as aluminum. Aluminum is just dangerous. Coming off the bat of aluminum bat at that speed it's insane. I started with the Panthers when I was 18, going right to wood bats, so I got a lot of experience with it. You can surely throw inside pitches a lot better with a wood bat than you can aluminum, because, like you said, those cheap hits are coming either off the inside of the hands or just check swings and stuff like that. Whereas a wood bat, you're splitting the wood. So I prefer wood bats. It makes the game more interesting. You're not going to see as many long balls as you would aluminum, but you don't want a game to be 5 hours either.
No, that's for sure. And I'm sure with that slider of yours, you probably did a lot of. Saw it off a lot. My very first or second wood bat game was a couple of years after Brock. I was playing in a league that played out near Windsor and played in the States, and people hadn't seen me, so that was great. And my ball moves quite a bit, so I think I broke 6 or 8 bats in a game. It was just insane. I thought, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
It didn't, it's you get to that point where you just know where you can hit it on the on the handle in particular.
Yeah.
It really evened it up for the pitchers because it was you'd give up cheap hits with aluminum bats all the time.
Yeah.
Just tough. So Steve, like, the weird part is, we're endeavoring to all get together after 30 years. And people's lives have changed significantly in all that time. We've all lived an adventure. And you talked earlier about, a big point for you in your life was your dad passing away.
Yeah.
How is that, did do you feel like you've changed your life in back of that? Was there some things that made you kind of stop and say, you know what, I really, there's some things I want to take stock of here?
No, I think I kind of lost, driving the game because he came to every single game. His health was the issue that, he passed away with, but I'm still going as I was back then. I can't sit down for 5 minutes. I get bored very easily. I got to be doing something. So I'm working now and doing renovations on houses on my time, and then I have the girls. But I think the major part that hit me was he wasn't going to be there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that it affects how you view your relationship with your kids, right? You just want to make sure that you get as much time with them as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you just don't know, right? It's very interesting to hear that. Is obviously you've had a second marriage, and you've got a fresh start in that world. What kinds of things do you want to get accomplished with your wife in particular as you move forward here? Is there, you guys got little things you want to check off, do a little traveling, or just enjoy life and successfully? You're still right in the thick of parenting, obviously.
Yeah.
Just want to get a few things checked off, but are there some things you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I think with the travel, being in maintenance, you don't get to have many days off, especially when you're on the road. It takes you away from home a lot. Now that I'm, secure in a job, I've been here for 5 years, maintenance supervisor. I'm a 7 to 3, so I'm trying to get to the point where I just bought an older house to become mortgage free. So we would like to travel more. I haven't traveled as much as I'd like to. My wife loves to travel. The girls they're like me. They always have to be doing something. So we're going to start traveling. I've got 3 weeks this year. We're going to Florida in mid-May. Then we've got 2 weeks for cottages. But I'm trying to get these renovations done so we can just spend more time together and do more things together. I think travel is the big thing for us, though. So.
Yeah, it's new experiences, and hopefully you just don't take her to Cooperstown to get shot at.
Yeah.
I think if there's one thing you could say to Coach McRae when you see him, what would it be?
I didn't hit him in the head. Just thanks for being there for all the guys. He did a great job, and like I said, the regret I have is not going back. He was a good inspiration, and he drove the team to where we're successful as we were. Him and the coaches as well.
Yeah, Mike is coaching at Division I. It's the dream he always had. He's at William and Mary, I think, which is second oldest school in the U.S. I've had the opportunity to talk to Daryl Kemp a couple of years ago, and obviously talk to him on his podcast. And Daryl's not in the greatest of health, so I think it'd be good for us to just get back together and remember that when you're a teammate for life, right?
That's right.
No one can take that away from us. And, I think you're a big part of the story. You were the MVP of the team, which is super cool. And it had been a long time. I never had the luxury of, like, the closers I had in Oshawa were horrible. We had to use a guy named Dave Hatch, who was an amazing starting pitcher. he generally had to come in to close games because we just didn't have that one arm in the bullpen.
Yeah.
And it makes such a huge difference for the confidence of a starting pitcher. If you know that, okay, I don't have to throw all game, I can kind of get us, if I can get in a 9-inning game, I can get 7 in,
Yeah.
or in a 7-inning game like we were playing. For me to get through 5, to get through 6 was pretty easy. So, from that perspective, it's just kind of like, okay, we know that we're here. And so it's a great role to have, and one that earns respect just for the position. And I think all of the teammates that I know, one of the questions that they were asking is like, can you get a hold of Vautour? We really want to understand what he's up to, because he made a great impression on, in a very short amount of time. I think you'll have a lot of people that are going to come up and give you a big
probably the
smile.
best team I played with, even with the short amount of time I got there. Great guys were great, like I said.
It's good, Steve. Well, listen, thank you for your time tonight. And, we'll see you in, hopefully we'll see you before then. But
Yeah.
if not, we'll see you in September for sure. And
What?
look forward to, I have to lose a little bit of weight for me to fit in my old uniform. So we're ordering new ones, but, we'll look forward to seeing you on the field and hopefully kicking McMaster's ass one last time.
That sounds good, like a plan. Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. And I appreciate what you're doing with these podcasts. It's brings back good memories, and it's good to see the guys on these. I'm looking forward to getting together with everybody again.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. Have a great night, eh?
Thanks, you too, Mike.